guys, it's me again, back again for another video. This one is a little more of a sit down chat vibe and potentially a random project after. I don't know yet, we'll see how we go. But I actually wanted to do something a little different because I have been really into BookTok lately and it's everywhere. It's on my Instagram, it's on my TikTok, it's following me. And I'm not mad about it at all because I'm a reader. I've always been a reader. I did have a little break in between, but I'll get into that later. But I am fully back into my reading lifestyle, if that's what you want to call it. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But I'm currently in between books and I'm anxiously awaiting the release of the next Crescent City book, which comes out in 4 days, and I've pre-ordered it, so I'm hoping it comes soon. But yeah, I thought I'd do a walkthrough of my books and maybe my to be read / things I want to read in 2024, and just to chat about books and reading because that's what I want to do. So that's what we're gonna do. I just want to say sorry again for the sound of my air conditioner. It is, once again, I feel like I'm repeating myself every time I film a video, but it is hot. We're in a heat wave at the moment, so today is 36 degrees, but with humidity it feels like 42 degrees. So that is so fun, and I will not be turning off my aircon to film this video. She's right here. We're in this together. A bit about my reading. I have always been a reader. I used to read when I was little. My mum would read to me. I was always reading. And then in high school, I was reading again. I was reading things like The Hunger Games and The Maze Runner and Fifth Wave Divergent. I was very into that whole era of books and movies. And then when I got into the middle years of high school, so grade 8, 9, 10, I discovered Sarah J. Maas. And so I went through the ACOTAR phase and the Throne of Glass phase. Honestly, haven't left those phases. Love those books, love those characters, love Sarah J. Maas, and have recently finished the Crescent City, the 2 new books, or new books, and then I'm obviously, like I said before, waiting for the next one. Yeah, I've always been a reader, but I stopped reading when I got to 11 and 12, just because there was so much school reading and like English books. They were so bad. They just kind of ruined reading for me, and I literally just had to stop. I was like, I can't read anymore right now. So I stopped reading, and that was really sad because I love reading. But last year, so 2023, I really jumped back into reading, and then 2024 was starting off strong with reading every day, as you've seen in my 75 soft video, where my goal is to read at least 10 pages a day. So I've been like churning through books. So I think for the first bit, I'll go through what I read maybe last year, and then what I've read already this year, and then I'll maybe go through my bookshelves and my collection that I have with me, and then talk about my to be read and things I want to read. I think that's the plan of this video, and that's what I'm going to just aim to achieve. So let's start with what I read last year. I think that's a good place to start. So I'm trying to think what I started with reading, like what got me back into my reading. And I can't quite figure it out where I started, but I think it may have been the Heartstopper series that got me back into reading. So let me just get them out from under my bookshelf that is under the camera right now. Get them out. So I have the full series, including book 5, which I believe came out in December, which my roommate and I went and got, and we were the first people in the store apparently to actually get the book. The person at the bookshop said. I do really love the art on the front, and then book 5. So I think that's where I started to be like, okay, I'm starting to miss reading, and I'm ready to jump back into my fantasy reading era. So then I actually reread ACOTAR, the whole series. I think I did skip the first book because if you know, you know. But yeah, I reread that whole series because it's one of my favorite series to this day that I've read. The characters are my comfort characters, and I was like, you know what, to get back into reading, I want to reread these books. So I reread all of them, this series. So these are the original covers, and as you can tell, they're quite old, my books. I got this book in 2015. So that was nearly 10 years ago that I read this. That's insane. Surely not. No, that can't be right. That isn't right. I don't know. Point being, I read it a while ago. So I read that again, and then I was like, okay, I missed reading. I want to jump back in. So I had Crescent City in my bookshelf already when I got it when it came out, which I think was 2019 or something. But that was 2020 was peak I don't want to read anything era in my life. So I tried to read it and I couldn't get into it. If you know Sarah J Maas as an author, her first books are notorious for being quite slow because she takes a lot of time character building and world building, which you do appreciate in the next books, but it was just very slow. So I was like, I can't get into it. I was reading it alongside another series that I'll show you in a second, and I was like, I can't get into it. I like this other book, which brings me to, which is from Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. That might be wrong, I don't know. And then I have the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got the 5 books, and I'm anxiously waiting for book 6, which I believe comes out maybe end of this year, early next year. But I fell headfirst into this series. This was my hard launch back into reading fantasy, and I am so not mad about it. This book, I loved it. I loved all of the books. I'm not going to get them all out because there's 5 of them, and that just doesn't seem necessary. But these characters, this book is very close, second or third to ACOTAR. If you want a enemies to lovers to enemies to friends to lovers again, this. After that hard launch back into fantasy, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish this book. And I will admit, it took me a while to get through this because I just was not motivated. But then the last 100 pages of a Sarah J Maas book changes lives. This is so dramatic, but it's so true. It's what gets you hooked onto the next book, which is House of Sky and Breath. This book, the end, if you know, talk to me about it, because I don't know enough people who I can talk to about. And the ending of this book was next level. Sometimes I can predict what's going to happen at the end. Did not predict this. And this is bringing back my love for reading. So, I read this whilst I was finishing probably the most coveted fantasy book of 2023, especially on TikTok. Oh, that's the second one. Where's Fourth Wing? If you're a BookTok girly, you'll know. She's tiny. Fourth Wing, which is the Dragon Academy, the enemies to lovers, to allies. it was good. I liked it. I enjoyed the first book, honestly, a lot more than I enjoyed the second book. But I am interested for the third book. That's my honest opinion. I didn't hate it. I just feel like it could have been half the size if they weren't fighting all the time. Also, if you want to talk to me about these books, I so want to talk to you about these books. I'm so here for a chat about books. I think that was my 2023 reading list. These two kind of soaked across into January, but I finished them early January, so I'm kind of technically counting them as 2023. I finished this more into 2024. I finished it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so that was my 2023 fantasy reads. I read a few different things which I do want to give shout outs to. So these are like the self-help lifestyle books that I have. So this is Chloe Hayden. You might know her from Heartbreak High or just Instagram, social media. She's an actor, and she's a neurodivergent actor and activist, and I really wanted to read this book. This book was beautiful, and it's also, as someone who is a teacher, a beautiful resource to understand neurodivergent kids and how to embrace them in a way in your learning environment. That, like here it says, embracing your true self, and I think there's some beautiful ways to understand neurodivergent people in this book, and she signed it. Oh, so cool. And then another book is called Bittersweet. I haven't finished this yet because it's a bit of a heavy read, but I love it. It's how to turn sorrow into creativity, beauty, and love. So essentially it like goes through different artists and poets and musicians and actors who have gone through significant hardships and then turned it into something beautiful, into like a creative outlet. And so far it's actually quite interesting. So if that is something you're interested in, I would recommend reading this, but it's definitely not like a before bed chill calm down book. It's like, I want to be academically stimulated book, if that makes sense. Okay, so one is a play and one is poetry. So this play is called Prima Facie, and it is fabulous. I performed in a production of this, so I hadn't heard of it before until I performed in it, and then I went out and bought it so I could read it. Massive trigger warning on this though, it does talk about SA and the legal system and how the legal system and the political system view victim rights and things like that, but it is a fabulously written play. And then this beautiful poetry book, which is called Anxious in a Sweet Store. So it's very different, I will say that. And again, trigger warning, mentions of mental health and like significant mental health. So each chapter is like a different part of the sweet store, or like a different lolly. So the first one is licorice all sorts, second one's rocky road, and so on. But each part is like a different part of her journey, I guess, as someone who struggles with anxiety and her own personal journey. And it's one that actually a local poet in my area, so she mentions a lot of like areas that I'm like, oh my god, I've been there. So it actually makes it quite beautiful and personal in a way that it makes it feel like it's part of my story as well. Yeah, those are my 2023/early 2024 things that I've read. I believe that's all I read. Well, not all, but my standouts, because if I went through everything I read, we would be here for a longer time. Okay, editing me here. I've had to stop this video at this point because I had so much footage about not only talking about what I want to read this year and showing you my bookshelf, that this video would have been like an hour long. So I'm going to split it up into this video, which is my 2023 what I read, and then the next video will be what I will read in 2024, plus a book tour, plus my little like crochet project, my book crochet project. Ooh. But yeah, that's what I think is going to work best for this footage. So I will see you in the next few days for the part 2 of my book video. See you later. Bye.